When shows came back in the summer, I thought everything was going to come back to normal. So the lead up to our annual Christmas show, I was excited. So I went into debt because I wanted everyone to be able to get a hoodie, you know? Our Brown Christmas show came and it tanked. On that same day, my amplifier exploded. Then I got COVID again. You know, there are people that have worse problems than me, but I'm just saying, bruh, I got hoodies. I got t-shirts. We got all types of sizes, and if you order them, you'll be helping a brother out. So order some friggin' stuff. Thank you in advance. Have a great day. Hello and welcome to episode 70 of my podcast. This podcast is called SUPcast, and it's like what's up, cast, like sup, S-U-P, cast, not stand-up paddleboarding, just sup. And it's been a long day, and I've been working multiple jobs today, and I also went to the gym, and I'm heavily caffeinated, and the caffeine is worn off. So it's going to be a rambling conversation with a new TikTok friend, and it seems like I keep meeting TikTok friends and having them on this podcast. I just had Nick Strike on this podcast, who is a humble and a lovely and wholesome Satanist, and that was episode 69. Now we're in episode 70, and I'm going to talk to my new friend, Adam Patrick Johnson, who made a couple viral TikToks about the music industry and has, some opinions about playing guitar in the music industry and whatnot. He and I are the same age, 40 years old, and we're playing music and trying to scrape a living doing so. So I got him in the waiting room, and let's welcome him to the friggin' show. It's Adam Patrick Johnson. Do you the Patrick is in your TikTok? Do you like to include that?
No, it's just because there's so many Adam Johnsons in the world. I had to be as specific as possible. I can go by Adam Patrick Johnson. I just don't do that professionally. It was just the only way to like get my own shit.
Right.
As far as like content goes, AdamJohnson.com has like been in existence as like a website for like 1,000 years, and nobody's doing anything with it. So I was like, well, I'll just use my middle name.
Yeah, because if you have like, you know, Adam and Johnson, you know, you need to stand out. And I'm trying to think of it. Like, I've had band members where I use their middle name actually on stage. I'll say, give it up for John Yablansky, you know, like because instead of having some sort of cool nickname like Slash or like give it up for, you know, Pound Cake or, you know, whatever the fuck, you know, like a full name. Like my bass player in LA, his full name is Jack Tyrone Keller, and I'll say, give it up for Jack Keller or give it up for Jack Tyrone, you know? I don't know, just because it
rolls off the tongue.
Well, it's less rock and roll, and I like to kind of, like, what I like to do is like the anti-rock and roll stuff. Like we had a bass player named Ron, and he just went by Ron, but he would do this bass solo. We'd be like, give it up for Ron on the bass, and then he would play this like anticlimactic bass solo where he just went boom, boom, and then he like would go fring, fring, and then go whoop. You know, and it was supposed to be this big moment in the show, and it ended up being this really anticlimactic, hilarious thing because he looks like a giant garden gnome, you know? So yeah, I don't like doing things like normally, like the cliche kind of shit.
Well, you know, man, you can call me whatever you want. I'll take whatever
Adam
I can
Johnson.
get. It's your show.
Yeah, this is SUPcast. Normally it's an interview, but since this is going to be more of a shop talk or a sit down.
Yeah, it's all good.
Because we're musicians, we're the same age. We probably came up doing a lot of the same shit. And so essentially, I just want to kind of volley back and forth as opposed to me be like, so when did you get your start? You know, like, you know, like all the basic interview fucking questions. I did talk to a Satanist last week.
I did see that.
Yeah, and that was a lot of me just listening because I don't know a goddamn thing about Satanism, right?
Yeah.
And
it's very much not what people think it is.
Yeah, and I learned a whole fuckload, but it was a lot of me listening. But this is going to be more like of us volleying back and forth. Because we're both content creators. We both play guitar. We both are in bands, and we are fucking making stupid TikToks and dealing with haters. And so like you and I have a lot in common. And how I met you is I stitched your video, and there was a video of yours that went viral where you pretty much, here, I'll let you explain it. Set it up.
So there was a guy that was posting a video that's like, what's a controversial guitar opinion? And so I just started stitching them, and there was a bunch. There was like, the compressor in your signal chain is not doing what you think it's doing. And like a bunch of those, but one of them was bands are not a valid business model in the music industry anymore. And it got a lot of people mad. And so people were like, well, explain yourself. And so I explained myself. And to be perfectly fair, I was speaking anecdotally about my personal experience, but I was really just regurgitating stuff that like Finn McKenty, the punk rock MBA, has been like saying forever.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of yes-anding his stuff. So
shouts out to Finn McKenty.
Yeah, absolutely. I interviewed him on my show, I don't know, it was sometime middle last year as things were kind of all shut down. And honestly, the reason why I'm doing all of this at all is because of him. Yeah. Because I was perfectly fine to kind of like hide behind like my podcast and like the content I was creating on YouTube is like this thing apart from me. But he was like, you're the one doing the thing. Like people should know that the thing they like is coming from a person and not just like a brand name or whatever. So he ruined everything for me by making me do this. But yeah, that video like went bananas, and I had guys like Herman Lee from Dragon Force chiming in, and then Edwin McCain like countering his point, and then it's like Edwin McCain and Herman Lee from Dragon Force having like a conversation in my comments about like bus maintenance. And it was just like, I don't understand. I don't understand how it happened. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I was just kind of like sharing my experience and why I think, hey, this isn't the way this works anymore. The thing that they told us to do is not true. We can't do that anymore.
Correct.
And if people think that they can, that a 17-year-old gets the impression that the way that it worked in 1997 is still the way to like make it, whatever that means, is false. And there are other alternatives to get whatever that is. And, it's one thing to hear it coming from like 18-year-old kids who like know this. It's another thing to hear somebody in their like just hitting 40 going, yeah, I lived this whole thing and it sucked. And there are better ways of doing this now. So you don't have to do the things that we had to do in order to get where we were going.
Yeah, and I actually signed a management deal back in 2012, and the person managing my band the business plan was still getting a van and tour. And I lived that for 20 fucking years. I mean, we started touring in 2005. And I was playing 100, 150 shows a year, playing original music, driving around the country, sleeping in Walmarts, and just grinding. And bro, it's however many years later, and I'm here, and shows are getting canceled again, and I'm on a fucking microphone, streaming and playing music in a room by myself. I do play with the band, and I did do a bunch of tour dates. I played with two bands. I did do a bunch of tour dates, but I stitched your video. And it was kind of half joking, but but the response was hilarious. I mean, it was a pretty divisive response, but I pretty much just said, get in a van, eat garbage, and die.
And die, yeah.
And because that's kind of my sense of humor, because it's just like, I don't know, the way I look at things is you're right. Like Adam Johnson is right. The old model doesn't work. Just buying a van like it's 1996 and like living out of it and just touring and thinking that you're just going to gain this momentum and people are going to start coming to your shows and it's going to be this word of mouth thing. I mean, that's just not the model anymore. A, and B, it's takes a lot of fucking money to do that. And if you're splitting the money 3, 4, 5 ways, playing original music and you're getting paid $40 and then you're like selling a couple t-shirts, oof, it's when you're 18 or whatever and you just start doing it, or you're 20 and you just start doing it, it's fun as fuck. It's
absolutely.
It's a beautiful adventure. You learn about yourself, you learn about life. But when you get to be our age, and it's a little harder of a pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And I like also that I kind of like did a retort to your video, but you came on and instead of being like, well, fuck you, you're an idiot, you're like, he's right too. Because, you know, everyone should get in a van and be poor for a minute. But like you said, everything changed for me when I had a kid, right? Yep. And I can totally respect that. And like, if I were to impregnate my girlfriend and if we were to have a child on the way, my shit would drastically change. I wouldn't be, you know, touring, doing DIY touring and playing like fucking basement shows. That would just end. You know?
But that's the thing. That's the funny thing is that like, that didn't happen for me. So I got married and was doing that and then got pregnant and I was still doing it. And then we had the kid and I was still doing it. Like I was literally like clinging with like every ounce of energy I had left onto this band that like, it was just this one, it felt the way that our team was always putting it is that there was just one more hurdle to cross. It was one more thing to like check off the list. We were so close. It was going to be the next thing. It was right over the horizon. And so I held on as long as I possibly could. And then, I mean, eventually it falls apart like most bands do. But I wasn't ready. It wasn't like, oh man, I need to change my situation. It was like, this is my last shot. And I did. I made it 2 or 3 years continuing into, you know, the first years of my eldest son's life, still doing that grind until the band fell apart. And so, you know, after that, I didn't play music at all for like a year. I just, you know, I was just off the road and just kind of processing the fallout. I mean, I was in that group for 7-8 years. Oh yeah, and that's a long-term relationship, and you're doing life with those people, and it didn't end great, and there was a lot of hurt feelings and a lot of like just garbage going on, and so you have to kind of like get over that whole thing, and just, you know, figure out what you want to do next. And for me, it was just like I had the connections, I had the network, I could have found another artist or found another band that was like doing what we were doing, and I could have just hopped right back in a van and kept on going. But it's just like, I don't think I want to, I'm not sure I want to do this specific thing right now, you know?
Well, I think that's another misconception that a lot of people have about music in general is that there's so many different ways to do it. There's not like a playbook where it's like A, B, C, and D. This is exactly how you're supposed to do things. Like even when you hear interviews with artists that have become successful, everyone's story is totally fucking different. And there's always an element of luck involved and being in the right place at the right time involved. And that's something that I remember when our booking agent saw my band Downtown Brown for the first time. We were opening for the Dead Kennedys, and he walked up to me and he said, "If this were the 90s, your band would be huge." That was his opening line.
God.
Yeah, which is like, he's not wrong, but also
it still kind of sucks.
He's not very tactful with words. Let's just say that. But yeah, that was his opening line, and I'm like with Reagan Youth and all that. We're still working with the same agent, and he does good work, but that was his opening line. If this were the 90s, your band would be huge, but it's not. It was 2014 when he said that to me. So yeah,
I know that feeling.
Yeah, but yeah, it's and that's the thing too, is I used to hold on to all these rigid beliefs about, you know, this is the way to do things. This is the only way to do things. And if you're not a road dog and if you're not on the road 150 days of a year, you're a fucking wuss. And you know, the people who play in cover bands are this. And, you know, I used to have all these really rigid views on pop music. And I used to be angry at emo music and all this stuff that is just completely dead for me now.
Yeah, it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, because I have real problems now. Like, I don't have the luxury of being mad that Machine Gun Kelly is popular. I don't have that luxury, you know?
Well, and the issue is that, like, we were programmed like that as kids coming up in the punk scene that was like, this was the only way to do stuff. And the really ironic thing is I went to school for music business. I have a college degree in music business. So I graduated high school in 2000 and I lived in Nashville and that's where I went to school.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the big 8 record companies the first day. And by the time I graduated, there was like 3 left. And, you know, in that world, there were the people that were willing to play the game and they were the ones who were going to work for the labels and do all the things. But then there was this whole like massive underground movement in my town. So there were all these amazing punk bands and like indie rock bands and, you know, post-hardcore, whatever. And so we came up in this really vibrant environment where we were going to each other's shows and like doing the thing, but like we were like, all right, we're in an industry town, but we're going to do it ourselves, and we're not gonna you know, ask for help. We're not gonna do the things that everybody else is doing. It's funny to mention that like the girl from Evanescence and like half of Lady A were in classes with me. They didn't get that memo. They and,
okay.
It seemed like they did. They their mindset got them a little further than ours did. But in the moment, it felt really powerful, and that, you know, we were in control of all of this stuff, and it was ultimately our destiny. But you get in these like rigid mindsets. They're like, this is the only way to do it. And if you don't follow this, then you're not legit. You're not hardcore. You're not whatever. And it's just like, man, that rigid thought structure, like you're saying, just like it's so destructive and it's so gatekeeping. It's a part of the reason why I call out the online musician and guitar community so much, is because they're terrible to other people who aren't like them.
Yeah.
And it's a problem. It's like really bad, like real bad.
I just got a comment on TikTok. I mean, this is completely delineating from our conversation right now, but the comment just reads like this. It says, California is for gay people. That was the comment.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm just like, wow. All right. Yeah. TikTok is the most toxic place a social media app, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I've been on YouTube for years and years, since 2005. And I used to think that was the number one most toxic place. TikTok beats it, hands down. TikTok pummels it into the ground as far as toxicity is concerned.
The thing that I do like about TikTok, though, is that you do have a very wide latitude to control the narrative.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I say something and someone goes, I disagree with that, and they don't have a good point, I just delete it. I was like, your comment does not even exist in this dialogue. I have no problems doing that. Now, if they've got a valid point, I'll absolutely engage with people. But most people who feel the need to counter like a post about, you know, guitarists being toxic, misogynist, old white buttholes.
Which is true, by the way. How was that received? Okay, once again, explain Cliff's Notes version, your video about the online guitar community, because I made the mistake of posting, and it got 25,000 views. I made the mistake of posting about how my amp broke, and it's fucking gross how many of these dads are trying to, no offense to dads. I love dads, but I like yeah.
You see my shirt?
What does it say? Dad bods? Dad bands?
Defend dad bands.
There you go. But
that's our merch line.
But I just like saying guitar dads, because the guitar dads are the ones that talk to you like you're a child.
Well, yeah, the other term we use a lot is blues lawyer. So it's a guy who's got like one of the R9 Les Pauls that cost like $4,500, and he's just sitting at home playing along to like Eric Clapton records. But so my post, again, it was another one of those, what's a controversial guitar opinion? I said, the online guitar community is too old, too male, and too white for its own good. And there were plenty of people who agree with me, and most of those people were people who were not old or white or men. But everybody who wasn't that was like, I don't think so. And it was a cool moment, because I knew it was coming. I did the thing that, you know, the internet hates. And I said that white people did something and it wasn't good. And,
I say that all the time.
Yeah. So But it's true. It is the thing. There's actually on my YouTube channel, we did an entire podcast episode and cut it up about why the online guitar community is trash. And it was really around the time that Fender released the Her signature Stratocaster, which I don't know if you've seen it. It's like it's a fully white Strat with like a white headstock. Like, it's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. It's a badass signature guitar, but it's for a black female guitar player. And
I saw the ads.
The comments for it are just horrendous.
Was it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. The anonymity of YouTube it gives people like, they really think it's disgusting. It's really gross. Yeah. But go on.
So what I ended up doing is that when people were saying like, well, that's not true, I reached out to a bunch of female guitar TikTok personalities and just asked them. I was like, hey, does this check out? And they're like, yeah, it does. And I posted one of the posts by a lady, a gal named Catherine, who's a fantastic guitar player who posts all the time and has way more followers than both of us do. And she's like, yeah, people call me fat and horrible, terrible names all the time. And they mansplain what I'm doing wrong and like all of that stuff. Now, I mean, guitar players are going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was more of the appearance stuff. And then of course that added this whole other conversation that we should comment on men's guitar playing videos the way that men post on girls' guitar playing videos.
I like that. Yeah, because they'd just be like, hey, you look really cute, you know? Like, and I actually, after I saw your video, I'm like, I need to start commenting on people's videos like this, like male guitar players, and just being like, you have
super sexist.
You have really pretty eyes, you know?
I did start getting those, by the way. People were like, all right,
nice.
Well, you know, you get them too. So I was like, all right, you know, fair play. I mean, if you're willing to go out there and say something, you do have to kind of expect there to be blowback. The thing is that I'm not worried about hurting the feelings of the people I'm typically talking about.
Right.
Like, I want their feelings to be hurt. I want them to think about why it is the way it is. Like, why are you compelled to behave this way? Can you fix it? Do you want to fix it? Typically, the answer is no, they don't. But, you know, the thing that cracked me up is that most of the responses that were like, most people did not have good responses. There was no good counter to, I'm doing this for XYZ. They're all bad. But a lot of people are just like, well, then why don't you just start your own community? And I was like, that's such a lazy take. Why would I want to start something new when there's already a community that exists that I can just say, hey, be better, try harder, be less of a dick to other people. Like, isn't that easier? But apparently I was wrong.
Well, in the political realm, it's the same thing, because a lot of people are trying to better themselves and learn more and be better people. But there's just a giant group of human beings that are like, well, I don't need to be better the old way. Like, why should I change? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, in any community, shouldn't you want to grow? Shouldn't you want to respect the people in the community? Shouldn't you want to be less cringe? Shouldn't you want to like act less like an old fucking dick? You know, like you would think that people would want to grow. And because my band used to be kind of edgy back in the day, like 2006, 2007, we got booted from the Warped Tour, and we would say fucking offensive shit, and we would write offensive music. And there's some like edgy shit that I used to say and do. And I remember when I was dating this girl and she was a staunch feminist, and I started to adhere to some of her beliefs, and I would be vocal about it on social media. And then I would have people that had known me for a number of years be like, yeah, that coming from the guy that, I mean, this used to be our actual website. It used to be stupidgayband.com, because everyone would go on our website and they would just eviscerate us and call us names. We used to have a message board that didn't have any mods or anything on it, so people could anonymously just slander us hardcore. Like, and this was in the 2000s. So we're like, hey, let's pull a South Park. Everyone says we're gay, stupidgayband.com, and we owned it, and we wrote a song about it, yada yada. But it's funny because I was saying something that I believed, and because I was learning, you know, the female experience was not something I really knew about until I started dating a feminist that explained it to me, like, this is how females are treated. This is what patriarchy means. yada, yada, yada. And I started learning, and then I started regurgitating some of it because I'm like, this makes sense to me. And I feel like I'm growing. And then I would say stuff, and someone that's known me for 10 years would be like, yeah, this coming from the guy with stupidgayband.com. That used to be our website. We changed it when we got management. We were advised to change it, which is a smart move. But it's like, you can be a different person. You can evolve, you can grow, you can learn, and you can change. And it's funny because people, I don't know, I used to be a fat fucking edgelord alcoholic, and now I'm less fat, and I haven't had a drink in 13 years. Yeah. You know, like, people can fucking change. And again, if you were the same person you were 13 years ago, that would suck.
Yes. It would suck for you, and it would suck for everybody around you. So,
yes. I would be dead, honestly.
Oh, for sure. I totally understand that. But my wife, who is definitely still completely sick of everything that I do all the time, would rather have me now than 15 years ago me when we got married.
Yeah.
Because I was still convinced that this thing that never happened was going to happen. And yeah, it's crazy. And the other thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is wanting different things over time. Because for a lot of musicians, the letting go or moving on out of whatever it is that you were passionate about when you were younger, can feel like it's defeat, or it feels like you're giving something up, when, at some point, maybe just your sensibilities change. And you're like, well, this isn't the kind of music I want to make anymore. Or these aren't the people I want to be making music with anymore. There's so many factors that just over time, just you change and things are different.
Yeah.
Because like you were saying, when I was in college, or I was fresh out of high school, the only real musicians were musicians who played in original bands, and guys who played covers were not real musicians. They were sellouts. They were lame.
Yeah, I was one of those guys, dude.
And the thing that humbled me was I joined one, and it kicked my butt. I was way out of my depth, jumping into that world. My story out of the original thing was that, again, the band broke up and I didn't really have a lot of stuff going on. I was writing at home by myself and couldn't find the right group of people to put stuff together. But I was friends with this guitar player named Mark Donnells, who's played with Butch Walker and freaking Skid Row and everybody. And he was playing in a group called Yacht Rock Review, which are these guys that dress up in the polyester leisure suits.
Smooth music.
Yeah, they do all the AM Gold stuff. They kind of were out in the forefront. And I was like, do they need vocal subs as a singer? And he was like, actually, yeah. So I got roped in with these guys. For the next 2 years, I was getting my butt kicked on the regular with just the musicianship that these guys had. And they came from the original world too. They were a group originally called YOU. I don't know if that ever rang a bell. And one incarnation of them, Clay Cook, who now works with Zach Brown Band, was in that group with them. And yeah, it's just the level of attention it takes and the level of discipline and execution to pull off that kind of music in general is just very, very difficult. And I
the
learned
Doobies
so
and Hall & Oates and all of that stuff is for pop music is really complex, and the musicality and honestly, who can sing like Daryl Hall night after night? I mean, that motherfucker can sing. And Michael McDonald, all that shit.
Michael McDonald.
Yeah, I mean, that yacht rock, people, I like that it became a thing. Did you ever see the series on YouTube that was the yacht rock series? It was like a faux documentary about all the yacht rockers and Michael Jackson, Michael McDonald, who Kenny Loggins, Hall & Oates. Yeah, that shit.
That's how it started. They saw those videos, and as an original group, they had a standing residency at this club every Thursday night. And one night they just did an AM Gold night, and they just called it Yacht Rock Thursdays. And it just blew up.
Yeah.
And they quickly outgrew this little basement dingy club in Atlanta. And now when they play in town, they're playing at like, the big outdoor amphitheaters or like the Roxy, which is, it's 5,000 cap venue, and they're selling it out. Like, it's crazy. The journey that they've gone on, and they've actually come back full circle, and they still do all the stuff that the cover stuff, but they've got like 2 albums worth of original stuff, and like it goes over just as well as the other things. It's crazy.
Cool. Are you still based in Nashville?
No. So I went to school in Nashville, I was with a group up there, put out a couple records, and then like when I got out of school was like 2004, like the job market in Nashville was like terrible.
Right.
And if you've been through Nashville in the past 10, 15 years, it's a very, very different city than it was back then. So I moved back to Atlanta in 2004 and kind of started doing like freelance musician, gun for hire stuff. I played guitar with like a singer-songwriter, and then got plugged in with this pop punk band. It was a female-fronted pop punk band, and I was with them for like the rest of that run of all of that stuff. So
yeah, and that's the band you were with for 8 years, and that was the band you were holding on and doing Warped Tour and all that. Yeah, okay,
absolutely.
And so you're still in Atlanta?
Yes.
Okay,
well,
cool.
I'm north of Atlanta, but yeah, I still rep. When people ask me, I say I'm from Atlanta.
Yeah, the metro area. I mean, like right now, I'm a little bit north of Detroit, but I rep the Detroit metro area.
Yeah, well, Metro Atlanta has like 7 billion people in it, so it covers a very large swath of the
same
of North Georgia. So, but yeah, that's Atlanta was a really cool town to come into. Especially coming from Nashville. Nashville, people think, oh, it's a music city. Like, no, it means everybody already has a band. And getting somebody to go see your show is hard because they've got their own shows. And, save for that little tight-knit group of friends and, enthusiasts who were supporting the groups that we were playing with, it was terrible. It was really hard. So coming somewhere where like people were like enthusiastic about music was great. And, we didn't struggle too much about like getting our name out there, and we had a good reputation and got to do some cool stuff and play with some big name artists and did Warped Tour and that kind of thing. But yeah, it was just the industry part just never, the thing that was supposed to be coming never came.
I know that feeling all too much. I remember having a complete meltdown after we signed our management deal, because we signed this management deal, right? And I remember I drove out to LA to sign it because I was stoked. And I'm I'm thinking about how my life is going to change. And like shortly after we signed the deal, the management company just dissipated. It just ceased to exist. The guy who signed us, the guy who was at the helm of it, he definitely did remain my friend. I'm actually going to see him on New Year's Eve, and he plays in a band called Fishbone, and he is he's just a good dude. He remained a close contact of mine, and he tried to do what he could, but ultimately what it came down to is like he had to worry about putting food on his table and worry about his own survival, which is hard enough being in a legacy band. And even a legendary band like Fishbone has to fucking work. I mean, he teaches bass lessons, and that's where I really saw it firsthand. I saw, here's a dude who's widely considered to be a legendary bass player by people like Les Claypool, by people like Flea. Flea says he jocked his style. He admits to it. And then you see this dude like having to paint houses. You see this dude having to teach bass lessons. And that's where it really hit me, is after signing a management deal with that dude and just being like, holy shit, like legendary band or not, you have to grind. If you want to be a musician, you have to do unless you find like a really good gig, you have to do all types of shit just to survive. And that's what where did I say that? I think I did a follow-up to the video. Of where I said tour until you die, which was kind of half joking, because I don't want to live that life anymore. I don't want to sleep in Walmarts anymore. I'll do it every once in a while. But now the gigs that I say yes to are like flying gigs, and they're gigs where I know we're going to get a guarantee. And with Reagan Youth, it's like short tours. I'm not doing the 3 fucking weeks on the road anymore. I'm not doing fucking 6 weeks on the road. That's something I did in 2007, 2008. And it was all just about getting fucked up, and it was an adventure. I'm not in my 20s anymore, dude. I'm 40 fucking years old. Like I need to know what's the compensation? Like, what are the amenities? Like, are we getting hotels? You know, I don't want to, you know, it's so like, it's funny. People took that post at face value when I said tour until you die. I mean, I think everyone should tour. I think everyone should, if like start a band with your friends and be poor doing it. But I'm not saying that you have to do that forever. And so it was just like a joking post. And my post actually, where I stitched your video, for me, got a lot of engagement as well. It got like thousands of views. And man, people definitely, you post an 8-second video on this app and people think that that there's no nuance to it, that's the end all be all. Like that's your personality.
Yep, that's you.
That is you. That is your stance. And there's no delineation from that. There's no nuance. They just think, like I said something about it being cold in Michigan and people are like, go back to California. California's for gay people. And it's so this is my question. When that initial TikTok of yours where you said that being in a band is not viable in today's music industry anymore. Yeah. When that popped, A, were you expecting it? And B, how did you deal with the backlash? Because people were, I assume, were very angry.
Well, no, I didn't. I didn't think, because again, it was a sub reply to an existing post I had.
Ah, okay.
So it was more or less just like me kind of like explaining, it was my justification of the original post. So no, I didn't think it was going to do anything. And the funny thing is this happened all over, I think like Thanksgiving break. I was at like my mother-in-law's house.
Right.
That video, I was literally sitting on like the floor of her guest room, like talking into my phone while like, you know, they were packing stuff up from Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
I had no preconceived notions of any of this. You know, the funny thing about being a content creator is that you just get used to like doing stuff just to do it.
Right.
So like I've been posting weekly videos on YouTube for a year and a half. And, you know, a couple might pick up if I hit the right topic, or, you know, the algorithm, you know, decides to grant me some time in the spotlight. But you just kind of get used to like just saying things into the void and just moving on.
Correct.
So, so I wasn't, and again, it's not really like the content that I typically talk about. Like I have a music business degree. Like I know these things, but it wasn't what I wanted to like, it's not, if you go to any of my posts before that one, they're all very much in the lane that I typically operate in. But I kind of wandered into this thing accidentally, and people seemed to, it seemed to hit a nerve. As far as negativity goes, I think I didn't deal with a lot of like vitriol about what I said, because I think what I said is pretty easy to defend.
Right.
There were plenty of people just didn't understand the meaning of it. They're like, well, the Rolling Stones are playing stadiums. Like, yeah, because they were around 50, 60 years ago, and they've already done this part. I'm talking about people who are trying to do it now.
Right.
More people were like sad, and I felt bad that I made people feel sad. They're like, this makes me sad. I'm like, I know. And honestly, that's why I loved your post, because like, as much as I believe what I was saying, I also believe what you were saying too, because you should go do that. And I made a follow-up post. It was like, I did not say don't be in a band. You should go. You should get in a van. You should tour. You should eat garbage. You should sleep on floors. It's important. It's important. You know, have you ever read Outliers, that Malcolm Gladwell book?
No.
His whole concept is that in order to be an expert at something, you need 10,000 hours of experience.
Okay, I've heard that quote for sure.
That's where that's the book that it came from.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a part of that. You need to learn how to do those things if you really want to take this profession, however you want to call it, seriously. I mean, it's not really like any profession where you can literally get drunk on the job. It's almost like expected. Is it a profession?
Right.
Maybe a vocation. I don't know. But like anytime like you roll into your office and your office has like a case of beer in it, you know, what is that whole dynamic like? And don't get me started on like the whole, like the way that we glorify substance abuse in the music industry, like perpetuates substance abuse with people who are already preconceived to substance abuse and mental health issues and all of that. it's just it.
I mean, I'm a walking example of that. I remember I used to watch the Oliver Stone Doors movie and be like, I want to be a drunk maniac poet, just like Jim Morrison, fat, dead, and drunk on a toilet, you know? And I used to actually drink. I used to pregame watching that movie. I used to drink to that movie. And the funniest part about it is you see interviews with Ray Manzarek and talking shit on Oliver Stone for portraying Jim in a way that they felt was not true to his actual character. Like Oliver Stone went wild with that. So here I was drinking to a false caricature of a real person, thinking I want to be that. Now that's wild.
So have you do you know any of Jake Brennan's stuff? He's got a podcast called Disgraceland.
Nope.
It's on Amazon Music, but he does that, and it's like true crime, but like in the music industries. And he has one called the 27 Club too, where he talks about like the last days of like all of these different artists and stuff.
Yeah.
And they have one on Jim Morrison, and Jim Morrison was not fun to be around. Like that dude was a troublemaker. At like calling him a troublemaker or a scoundrel is putting it lightly.
Okay.
It wasn't great.
It wasn't great. It wasn't great being around me in 2007. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, hey man, we've all had our moments for sure.
Yeah.
But as far as like, you need to go through things. You need to struggle. You need to find adversity. Find the things that challenge you and learn from them. And I think that living in a van and doing that is important. Again, there's some of the formative memories of my life happened in that era. So it's just that at some point you've got to either figure out a way to make it worth your while, or you need to find something else to do. You know, in my situation was I was like, well, I don't want to travel and I still like playing music. I'll start a cover band. And because I had already been plugged in with these guys and had good connections, like we came out of the gate and we were like making like good money, like more money than I ever made playing in an original band.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we were averaging like first out the gate $2,000 a night. And then it's like $3,000 a night, $5,000 a night. And you're just like, it just like the switch flipped. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I don't have to travel. My wife is in the band. It was like, it solved a bunch of problems like, immediately. And I still got to do the thing I like doing. But the thing that like, you have to change your focus at some point and be like, all right, I have to figure out how to make this work. It's not just like show up to the gig, play the thing, get my check, go home. Like I've got to name this project. I've got to make logos for it. I've got to put a website up. Like we're responsible for all of those things. And it just turned out that like, I got as much, I enjoyed that part of it as much as I enjoyed the other stuff. And that's kind of when the whole content creation kind of like dovetailed, because it was like, well, I've learned some things. I've made lots and lots of mistakes. Like I should probably share this with other people so that they don't have to go through all the crap that I went through to get to where we were going. Because I think the money kind of messed us up. He's like, well, we're already doing okay. So why do I need to, you know, change anything? But, you know, as time goes on, you know, challenges present themselves and you have to either adapt or, you know, not. And so, you know, a lot of stuff has changed since then. And, you know, the podcast and blog and YouTube channel are just kind of ways to be like, hey, I've been doing this for a long time and I'm doing okay. But like, I had to go through a lot of hard things that you don't need to go through to get there. So listen to this and skip a few steps. Some of the bad ones, at least.
Well, that's noble. And what's the YouTube channel called?
Cover Band Confidential.
Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't want to misquote it.
Yeah, it was a little nod to Tony Bourdain. Just wanted to like, because it is kind of like it's a weird industry. But the fact of the matter is that like, I see all of these YouTube musicians and like people who have these channels that are like aspirational, you know, guys who are like, I'm touring with this national artist, and you know, you watch those things to kind of like get a little behind the scenes look, and it's like it's inspiring. But like the fact of the matter is that not even like most, like a substantial majority of like working musicians or actual musicians are just dudes playing shows in their hometowns with their buddies. Like that's a large population that like nobody's talking to. So I was like, I guess I could do that. And that was kind of the whole mission statement. And it's not like I don't enjoy new music or original stuff. I still write, I still record. It's just it's a means to a different creative outlet. You know, when my videos need music, I compose it. Or if somebody needs help putting a podcast together and they need like music beds, like I do that kind of thing. And then I just write stuff just for myself, just because like I'm sitting here, I'm like, all right. But it's not, I'm not trying to sell that part of my personality or my soul for commerce. It is now purely for my creativity, my enjoyment.
There's a freedom in that, you know, because when you're in that mode of like, okay, like we're a product, like this thing that I started with me and my friends, this is a product and we need to make it digestible. And this is the thing is I grew up listening to all this fucking 90s music, and in my mind we could be as weird and eclectic as we wanted to be, and because all of these like outlier bands in the 90s did it, like Primus and you know fucking Ween and all these bands of Mr. Bungle, we're just like, yeah, we can do the same thing and it's gonna yield the same results, but like without factoring in the fact that that was all in the early 90s and there was MTV and there was Beavis and Butthead and there was a lot of just like weird college kids that like all types of weird music, and that didn't really necessarily exist in the early 2000s. It was a different landscape. There was like the pop punk thing, and then in the mid 2000s there was the emo, and then in the late 2000s the scene music, and you know, so it's like, yeah, so just to think that, yeah, I didn't think for 1 second like I'm like, we have to monetize this, but we can just be us and it's gonna work. Like I literally was that naive, which it's weird to think that I'm just like, well, we're gonna do it our way and we're not gonna augment anything and it's gonna work. It has to work, right?
Well, yeah, I'm working. I'm putting so much effort into this. It has to work, right? I'm trying so hard.
I tried really hard, dude.
It's so wild to me how upset people get when you start talking about the intersection of art and commerce. But like, if you want to be a music creator as a job, you have to make a product that people want to buy. You know, in our world, we're fine with eyeballs. If you're looking at us, like, we're okay with that because that's what we're selling you. I'm not trying to sell you something to like move you or something that you can, you know, put in the background while you make out. Like you have to be you have to be looking at me, telling you the thing I'm telling you in order for this to work.
That makes a lot of sense, dude.
It's just, you have to kind of, I don't have any illusions about what music is or isn't and what it has to be in order for it to be profitable. It doesn't mean that it's not good, because popular music is good. It has to be accessible. It has to be palatable for a large swath of people. That is a skill that not everybody has. And the problem, it's not really a problem. I hate saying that. It's not a problem. The challenge is that there's so much out there. It's so fragmented. It's so, you know, these niches and genres are getting more and more specific. So it's hard to break through in any, you know, big way. So for me, it was just like, I don't think I want to play this game right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I don't want to make music. And it doesn't mean that I won't ever release music. That's actually one of the things I do want to do in 2022, just to have something out there. But the fact of the matter is that it's way easier to build a following as a personality and then sell them a thing once they're already following you than it is to take the thing and push it out front and be like, this is the thing you need to be focusing on, not the person making it. I think we just need to flip this. We need to flip the expectation, because we thought, well, we're a band, and if we put out a product that's good enough, people will follow it. People will listen, and then they'll find out about us.
Right.
The model's just backwards now.
Yeah.
People need to find you and like you and follow you. And then if you put something out that is good, you'll have an audience to give it to.
Yeah,
you know?
And that makes a lot of sense. And that's something I learned from watching Finn's videos, where he was saying about the Instagram, like brand Instagram suck. Like people want to follow Elon Musk. They don't want to follow Tesla. They don't give a fuck about Tesla. Elon Musk is the face, and he's the interesting character that is at the forefront of all the Tesla shit. So yeah, of course they're going to follow him on social media and see what he's up to. And then, he'll drop the Tesla or SpaceX or whatever the fuck, it makes a lot of sense. And I had to learn that at a later point in life. It's like, okay, well, if at some point I'm like, okay, everything I did was I used my band's name, like that was my identity. I'm behind this band. But at some point, I think the pandemic really pushed that into the forefront. When the pandemic happened, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to start making tons of fucking content, tons of videos online. And then TikTok, it even got weirder because as you know, a bunch of strangers will see your fucking face on their phone and almost on accident. Like,
yeah, they don't want to. They don't want it.
They definitely don't want to.
I did not ask for this.
Oh man.
But I mean, that's how I found you.
Right.
It wasn't even the response. Like I found, but like I said in the initial comment, I was like, oh man, I love your stuff, because I kept seeing you pop up.
Weird.
But it was always like, you're always in my For You feed.
That's crazy.
But again, the thing about TikTok that is so crazy is that it figures you out so quickly.
Yeah.
And what it did was, it's like, this guy is watching like pop punk and like DIY throwback footage, and he's about this age. Well, here's another one of those guys. We'll just start throwing him that every now and then. And that's I really think that's as simple as it is.
Right. And that's how I was thrown you. And I kept seeing your fucking video, and I kept seeing your face. And I'm going to be 100,000,000% honest. When I first saw your video, I was like, what the fuck does this motherfucker know? Just being 1,000% honest. But then I was like, okay, he's right. He's right. And it's stuff a person like me doesn't want to hear, because I'm a lifer, dude. I've been living in a van for 20 fucking years. I play in 2 fucking DIY punk bands. I'm like constantly playing shows. I still haven't quite let go of the Peter Pan shit. I'm a 40-year-old man that gets on planes, gets in vans, and gets up in front of people and says some dumb shit. And my original band is silly as fuck, but I love it. I love being on stage. It gets me fucking higher than any drug. So I'm still with it. And that's why and I was just sitting in my van, and I'm like, this fucking guy. But I wasn't like mad, because you were right. And that's why I prefaced it. I'm like, he's right. It's tough to make money being in a fucking band, but then I just let it loose. I'm like, but you should do it anyway, fucking die. But like you were saying, like, it figures you out. Why would it keep showing me your face if it didn't know that I was that type of fucker that would watch a guy talking about music? Because I watch Finn, I watch, and like Grabmaster Hash, I had him on my podcast, the guy that 2 steps on conservative graves. Yeah, and he and I are buddies now. So it's like, it's really wild, because it figures you out, and it throws you shit, and it kept throwing me your shit. And you know what? After I posted that video and we started talking a little bit, and I started following you, I started to really like you. And that's and that's the other thing, because you can't judge a TikTok at face value, because there's nuances to it. Like, you could think someone's TikTok is annoying as fuck. Does that mean does that mean the entirety of that human being is annoying? Not necessarily. And I started listening to your takes. I started following your content. And what's funny is, after I followed you, my actual follow page, because you know how there's the For You page and there's the follow page. Yeah. It was nothing but your videos. But I watched a fuckload of your content, and I'm like, yo, like, this snarky motherfucker, I agree. And now here you are. So
yeah, I mean, I wasn't. The thing is that platform really rewards that kind of content.
Yeah.
So when I do post something and it's like helpful, I don't get as much engagement. But like you were saying, like you start following this person, you can kind of like go through the back channel and like watch the other things.
Yeah.
And you can kind of get a better idea. But yeah, you're not going to get those takes just when you're just randomly scrolling through stuff, because they're just not going to be out there. My goal ultimately is to be helpful. And
yeah, of course.
What I realize though is that sometimes saying things in an edgy or controversial way is being helpful, because it can challenge your worldview. It can challenge your mindset. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm being edgy or controversial just for the sake of it. It's just figuring out like, well, this is the way to kind of get my point across on this platform, so I'll do it this way. But like ultimately, I want to help people. I want to tell people the things that nobody told me.
Right.
And that's really my motivation, is to like, well, here are ways that you can make money. There's ways to do that. And here are some cool branding ideas for your project. It doesn't have to be, it could be an original group. It could be like, I don't feel like what I'm talking about is specifically cover band related. Like,
I don't get that either. I don't think it's like specifically cover band stuff. Like
I learned all my shit from being in an original group and marketing that using DIY stuff. And some guy, because I said something in one of my videos, like all of the marketing stuff that I learned, you know, pitching my DIY punk band is like, marketing and punk, those don't go together. I was like, ask the Ramones, ask the Misfits, like. Shut up. Like, don't talk to me about things you know nothing about. The fact of the matter is, like, punk music is all about marketing. It's, you know, it's making your own flyers and putting them everywhere you can and handing them out at shows. Like, that's all it is. DIY music is marketing. That's and then, you know, trying to get people to build that following. That's just what we came up doing. It just happens to be that you can also do it for more lucrative projects as well. That, you know, so I use the same techniques to post stuff for the 80s band that I play in that I would have, you know, the original group that I was touring with. So much stuff is universal. Like, I didn't invent putting QR codes on guitar picks, but I'll talk about it because I don't think anybody's mentioning it. Like, you might as well.
Yeah, and yeah, the Ramones sold a fuckload of t-shirts. In fact, like Finn McKenty brings up the fact that they're more of a clothing brand than a band at this point. You know? Yeah. And
I mean, they're not the only ones.
Right. And, you know, Black Flag, Misfits. I mean, look at Misfits. But you know, and that's the funny thing. There's so many, especially like being the replacement guy for the original Reagan Youth singer that died in a very tragic way in the early 90s. Like, no one's ever going to be as good as that guy in anyone's eyes. He's the original guy. He wrote all the lyrics. He started the band with Paul, who's my bandmate now. And that's, well, I'm just going to say that's what I like about a lot of your responses, because you're not afraid to tell people that they're wrong, or you're not afraid to challenge someone's stupid comment. And that's, as I started going through your content, I started noticing that it's because I do that fucking same thing, because people will come at me and they'll be like, fuck Reagan Youth, you're a scab, you're a poser, yada, yada. And most of how I built my following was just responding to all of these like hater comments. And
dude, I love that posing one. Here's me posing in Detroit. Here's me posing in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah. Here's me posing out in LA.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Well,
but yeah, you have to kind of. It is again. The engine is being fueled by negativity, so you have to kind of figure out how to harness it for your own advantage. But I think you can do that without being mean. Like, I don't like the idea of using social media as a weapon against a person or people.
I agree.
But I think that it's okay to push back when people don't know what they're talking about. And I think that's the other thing, is that like, it's very easy to look at a person like me and go, what the hell does he know about? But again, I have a music business degree and I did this for a long, long time. So when somebody posts something and they're like, well, how do bands like Quiet Riot make a living? And I was like, well, Quiet Riot's a legacy act and they're getting paid a guarantee and like this is what a guarantee is. And
people don't know this shit, dude.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, Rudy Sarzo has to be in the band because he was the only original member of the lineup that people would actually go and see. And it was probably the requirement of Kevin DuBrow's estate to, use the Quiet Riot name is that they had to have X number of original members. So it's like, there's this whole, there's a business behind this, and you can either choose to like learn about it and use that information, or you can choose to ignore it at your own peril. But so I don't know. It's an interesting, like the thing that I always, I joke around with is like, I still don't know. I know a lot of things. I just don't know how to make any of it beneficial to me or useful anyway.
I'm with that, dude. I feel that.
A friend of mine posted this the other day. It was like a picture of like of a spoon that had a spork cut out of it on the inside, and then the other side was like a butter knife. So it was like one utensil that was like all three of these things. It says,
right,
when you know lots of things, but you're still useless. Yeah. And I was like, that stings. That's exactly what I feel like.
I feel that. And and back to the whole negativity thing. You're saying the negativity can sometimes be the vehicle. And I had someone in my comment the other day, it was that LARPing, where here I am LARPing in New York, here I am LARPing, whatever. And, but the person said like, why are you respond to this? And the honest answer is it gets more engagement than fucking anything. And that's something Finn 100%. Will tell you too, that like he'll post different thumbs and he'll like post different titles to his videos. And he says the negative ones get the most engagement. And so I take shitty comments and really negative things that people say towards me, and I try to make a funny response or a silly response or a response that in a nice way proves them wrong. And instead of me just being like, you're a fucking idiot, I'm just like, yeah, I'm a total fucking loser. Here's me losing, and I'm a loser. And then it ends up catching some steam. Now, if it was just me being like, hey, this is my cat and this is my life, it'd be pretty fucking boring. Like people want some tension. People, I don't know. It seems like, especially on TikTok, they like seeing a little bit of drama. So if you're going to come at me and say something really dumb, I'm going to respond snarkily, and I'm going to respond, try to like make people laugh a little bit. And I'm going to just try to show everyone that you're an idiot without actually saying it, because that'll get you a ban.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've yet to get really in trouble.
I got in trouble.
Do what?
I got in trouble for we played the Gathering of the Juggalos, and I posted a Juggalo vomiting, and that got banned. There's some things I'm learning still. There's some things that you definitely can't post on TikTok. Anything to do with the toilet, anything gross, and then I'm trying to think of what else. There was a minute there where my stuff was getting taken down, and I had to learn real quick because I'm actually putting work into this content creation shit. I don't want to get the big ban. I don't want to be too controversial. I tell everyone I got to keep it PG-13. I got to keep it PG-13 or light R.
So here's a little slice of my life story. When I got out of doing music, I worked at Apple when I was playing professionally, because they were like, you could look like a complete like crazy person and still hold down a fairly steady job.
Right.
And then I left, and I actually started working in ministry. I did IT support for a church, and the guy who runs this whole network of churches he's very well known and he's very popular, but like he's got a specific way that he talks about things publicly, and he can like talk about both sides of an issue without like kind of tipping his hand, kind of like telling you how he actually feels about it. And from a branding standpoint, it was very interesting to see him navigate different situations and things like that. And it's definitely something that like rubbed off on me. Yeah. So I am very like intentional about what I share and what I don't share, and what I say and what I don't say, or how I say things. So trust me, I totally get what you're saying, that you do get like the intentionality behind what it is that you put out and how you can accidentally stumble into something, and get yourself into trouble. Again, we're branding. We're branding ourselves. We're branding these accounts. It's tricky to kind of like figure out the way to thread the needle on certain topics, or the way that you kind of present yourself. It's really, really interesting stuff. I still don't think I've got it figured out, but I can definitely relate to that.
If you told me in 2001 that my stupid face would be a brand, I would say you're fucking ridiculous, dude.
Well, also that like people are interested in what 40-year-old like white dudes want. Think about like, how is that a thing? How is my life experience or your life experience like compelling content all of a sudden? Like these things didn't exist for us. Like there were no channels like this. We were being force-fed, MTV at that age. And if we wanted to find information that was interesting about this kind of stuff, we had to like seek it out. We had to like, go to record stores and like pay for zines and like talk to people with questionable, information. Yeah, I mean, considering that like this is we two guys like us found each other doing roughly the same thing about roughly the same kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is wild. It just the world is small, and it's just crazy how this stuff. Yeah.
It's quite small. I remember when I was in my early 20s and we were playing with this band, and the keyboard player of this band is actually doing really well in LA, and does like produces like Sia and shit, like did a CeeLo track, like is doing all this crazy stuff. But I remember at the time, like they were in their 30s and I was in my 20s. I remember thinking that, oh, they're old. And now I'm on the other side of that, where it's like, I'm fucking 40 years old. Dude, I'm about to be 41. Like, what the fuck happened? Like, but I also have to tell myself, and I tried to be very mindful with myself that, we got in a van accident in 2010. We flipped a van on the highway on some black ice. Like, I definitely used to drive drunk and like and take all types of risks. I used to make very bad decisions. I used to be extremely impulsive. I used to be a big fat alcoholic with all types of blood pressure issues and health issues, severe depression, pills, you name it. Like, I still got stuff done, but like being 40 is a gift to me.
Yeah.
And that's the way I wrap my head around it. But man, if you would have told me, the 20-year-old me, that I would be a 40-year-old version of me, I'd just be disgusted with it. I don't know why. Like, I literally thought I was gonna die before I hit 30.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say. But so, how does it feel being a music guy and being 40 years old? What is your view on it?
Well, again, I tend to look at the younger people who comment on the stuff that I post with a little bit of grace,
Yeah.
Because we know
We were those people.
Yeah, we know very well what it feels like to be a 20-year-old shithead guitar player. So of course you would say that. Of course you would feel that way. So I don't take that stuff personally. And the thing that always cracks me up is that whenever I work with musicians that are younger than I am, I try not to do like back in my day, da 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 da. But I will try and like imbue the things I've learned when I'm working with them. Yeah. And I remember I was working with this bass player, very talented kid. He had just gotten out of music school, and he was working with us, and he was great. He was a fantastic addition to the group. He got an opportunity to be a music director and tour with like an up and coming country artist. And I said, "Hey man, congratulations, that's amazing. Touring's a young man's game, and I wish you well." And he left, and he got in a van and was doing that thing. And like 18 months later, I got a text from him that said, "You had said that that one thing you said about touring being a young man's game, because he had just lived, a full year of
18 months of that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Hotel rooms and all of that junk. And he was like, I get it. And it's just like, you don't have to prove people right by explaining yourself. Sometimes you just say the thing that's true and then they find it to be the case as they go through, as they go on their journey, So I'm not worried about being right so much.
Yeah. And no one wants to be that condescending fucking old person, just be like, well, you'll find out, kid. That shit's fucking annoying as fuck. Yeah, people are gonna find shit out on their own, especially if they travel a similar path. Like they're gonna have to learn these lessons on their own. And just like with my alcoholism, that I had a bandmate for a really long time that after I got sober, he continued to drink really hard. His mom got sick with cancer, and he was just drowning himself in booze. Yeah. And he would say shit to me like, oh, you just got sober so you could prove that you're better than people. I felt like he almost resented me because I had stopped drinking. And there were times where I really got into it with him, and I'm just like, dude, you got to stop doing this. And it really took for his health to fail, for him to come to the conclusion on his own that he was killing himself. It wasn't going to come from some dude that he thought was like some fucking condescending, like newly sober fucking dickhead. It wasn't going to come from his bandmate. It has to come from you, and you have to learn these lessons. And dude, his health failed, and then he got sober, and he's been sober ever since. And now he just like eats a lot of Rick Simpson oil, which is cannabis. So he's just a big cannabis guy. But he had to learn that shit. There's no way we can teach people. Like, you can put the information out there, but you can't shove it down people's throats. That shit's annoying.
Yeah, and it just takes a level of security, We've got to be okay with who we are and where we are in life and the choices that we made. And so if people say, well, I don't care for your path, okay, you don't have to. Another post that kind of popped off for me recently was we were playing a party, and I was like, oh man, another weekend playing in a lame ass cover band.
Oh, I like that post. Yeah.
Explain it. PA with my stupid musician friends. It sucks. And I got a lot of negative. I literally had a guy today that said cover bands aren't bands. I was like, there are a lot of things you could have said that would have been cogent points, but people playing music on stage are a band, regardless of what they're playing.
Right.
So on its face, it's wrong. So you just go, okay. And then you just move on. You don't have to worry about those, but the rest of it, people will find things out on their own. And I'll put the information out if I think it's useful or helpful, and use it or ignore it at your own peril. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And I really like that post because anyone that was talking shit on cover bands, you're just like, oh, this shit sucks. My paid for PA and my paid for amp and, catering. It's just, and people actually with the Reagan Youth thing, people will say that we're a cover band because there's only 2 original members.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest posts that I ever posted was just me being like, yeah, 2 original members and the other 2 aren't on this planet anymore. So it's like,
somebody's got to do it. Yeah.
So, and if the original guy who wrote all of those guitar riffs and all of those songs with the other original guy who is no longer on this planet, if he is still in the band, and the original drummer that started the band in high school in Queens, New York is still in the band, then what else needs to happen for it not to be a cover band is my question. Like, when does it become actually Reagan Youth and not a Reagan Youth cover band if 2 of the original members are fucking dead? Like, what do you want? What do these people want?
There is no alternative. It's this or nothing. Well, and that's the thing that I did a whole story about my journey from, again, shithead 20-year-old guitar player to now.
Right.
And it really was I was presented over and over with the reality that if I was going to play guitar to make money, I was going to have to learn how to play other people's stuff. So it doesn't matter whether I was playing, for a national recording artist or I was playing songs that my own band recorded in the studio, I wasn't the only guitar player, and I wasn't the only guitar player in the band. I wasn't the only guitar player in the studio. 9 times out of 10, I was taking parts that I was playing and like mushing them together with something else that somebody else wrote.
Yeah.
And once you kind of like realize that like when you're in a collaborative like musical situation, especially in a studio with producers, your creative input is very murky and is going to get kind of like washed in with what the producer wants to do. So you can go in there and you can spend a day laying parts down, and then you go home and you come back and the producers either chopped all your parts up and like, you know, pitch shifted them and like moved them around, or they laid their own lines on top of it and you've got to figure out a way to play both at the same time. And it was just like, oh, like there really is no difference between this and what, you know, I say I don't ever want to do. Like we're literally, we're two people like staring at each other in a mirror. So it was that's just one of those like, again, sobering realizations. Like, yeah, this is what, if you want to do this for a living, you got to be willing to compromise your artistic integrity for the sake of, you know, getting a paycheck. It's a job just like anything else. Being a professional musician is a job, and just like any job, there's cool parts and there's less cool parts. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have to, you got to do what needs to be done in order to get paid for it.
Yeah, and even my old way of looking at things, if you were to apply it to what I'm doing now, 20 years ago, I'd be like, I'm never singing anyone else's songs. And I'm never, and look what I'm doing fucking now. I'm traveling around the country singing someone else's fucking songs. Like, yeah. I mean, granted, 2 of the original members are still in the band, but dude, I'm not an original member. They started that band in 1981. That was when I was born.
Yep.
You know, I'm 40 years old. The band has been around for 40 years. And Paul, the original guitar player, he's just like, do you want to do this? So literally the thing that I'm doing right now goes against what I thought music should be 20 years ago. So go ahead.
The funny thing is, you know, you think about, again, because Reagan Youth's in the same category.
It's pretty cool, though, I think.
Oh, no, dude. It is.
I'm having fun.
Trust me, if something like that crossed my desk, I'd have a hard time turning it down for sure.
Of course I said yes. I was on the toilet. They're like, hey, do you want to sing? I'm like, sing for Reagan? I go, okay. I said immediately yes. And then now I hang out with these maniacs all the time, and they're my friends. We have fun. But anyway, go ahead. What were you saying? What were you, Quiet Riot?
Yeah, so you're thinking about bands like Quiet Riot and like these legacy groups. Like now they have these package tours and stuff where like I'm friends with a guy named Rob Hammersmith. First, he's a drummer named Rob Hammersmith. It's not a fake name, like it's his actual name. And we came up in the clubs in Atlanta for years and years and years. And weirdly enough, like I was talking about Skid Row earlier, but like Skid Row was based in Atlanta for a long, long time.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, we were just little rock and roll dirtbags, and he got a call to play drums in Skid Row. And like, what would you do if somebody was like, hey, do you want to play Youth Gone Wild every single night on drums and get paid to do it?
Hell yeah.
And again, you're doing it with the guys who wrote the songs and all of that. And then, you know, you got to think about his situation, and then like they've got a different singer, and like there's a whole like secondary economy for musicians like you and I that need to fill these gaps in order for these legacy acts to continue to go out and tour.
Correct.
So it's still an industry. It doesn't matter what people want it to be. You know, at the end of the day, most of us are not in the music business. We're in the entertainment industry. And
that's another Finn quote.
The rules just apply differently. They just do.
Yeah.
I came from a musical theater background, so I was like, all right, you know, play on. Let's just do it. So I just the whole artistic thing and the rigid mindset stuff just drives me nuts, because the fact of the matter is that, you know, there's so many ways to go about things, and there's so many opportunities out there if you're just willing to like just be, again, I'm using kind of like wishy-washy terminology, but just be open-handed to the things that are out in front of you. Like, look at opportunities for what they are, and just, if it feels right, say yes. You'll learn something. Even if it goes bad, you'll learn something. You just got to have that mindset. You got to be willing to try stuff and fail.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, especially with the content creation too. I've been, once you get on the internet and you start dealing with the public and you start putting yourself out there and putting your face everywhere, you kind of have to toughen up and learn and do better and find out what works, and then keep doing that and find out what doesn't. If something doesn't work, stop doing that.
You know what's funny?
I'm stubborn though. I'm stubborn.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way. Like
I'm like, this has to work because it's a great idea.
Well, but that, again, this is another one of those things where, like, if it was like Bruce Springsteen and Steven Van Zandt were talking, like, they're like, we made it because we were the last ones. Like, everybody else quit and we didn't, and that's why we ended up making it. But it is like, especially with like content creation, there is something to be said about like just the stubbornness or the refusal to stop, because it is one of those things that, like, again, you gotta put the time in. You've got to like learn how to do this the right way. Yeah. And it is just like a process. I will say that you were talking about like hurtful things and like, having a thick skin. The last thing that somebody wrote about me on the internet that hurt my feelings was a guy who posted on our YouTube channel, there's not enough, you're not, this channel isn't active enough. You need to be putting out more content. After I had put out like, again, weekly episodes of stuff like where I'm like scripting and like doing it, plus like shorts, like 4 or 5. I was like, I put out 6 videos this week. He's like, wow. Not enough. He's like, not enough. That hurt my feelings. I was like, I'm working really hard, dude, for free. Yeah. And that hurt more than anybody going, this guy's an idiot. You shouldn't listen to anything he said. Just like, because I think part of me is like, I would do this full time if I could figure out how to do it. Right. But yeah, that's what hurt my feelings. He's like, you're not putting out enough content.
Right. I feel that. Sometimes people will be like, they'll refer to my stupid videos, and I know they're stupid. I know I post a lot of dumb shit, but it's like, hey, I'm working really hard on this stupid shit. So fuck you, man.
Yeah. You think making interesting, like, stupid stuff is easy? It's not.
It's hard work being this stupid, brother.
Thanks. Show me the lie in that statement. I don't think it's there.
I work really hard being this much of a dumbass. No, but yeah, I had to teach myself how to do video editing, and I had to get the right equipment, and I had to buy fucking this stupid microphone that I'm talking into, and then I had to teach myself how to do OBS so I could switch the camera like this, and then it was but there was a beauty to that initial lockdown where I was provided an opportunity that I didn't normally have to really concentrate on learning some new skills.
100%.
And not to say that, all those people dying was good for me because I learned how to video edit better. Like that's, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there was a, what do they call it? When it's something good in a shitty situation, there's a fucking term for it. There was
silver lining.
Yeah. That's what I did. There was a silver lining to being locked down is I was able to start streaming on Twitch, and then I started making money off that because when people got their free money, man, they were buying all types of t-shirts off of me and they were throwing me tips. It kind of died down these days. I think everyone's back to fucking really having to scrape.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a kind of cool time in my life. I was scared as fuck about the pandemic. We didn't really know what was happening or anything, but I also got to hunker down, get some gear, and teach myself some actual skills that I still use to this day. And and here I am. I'm still doing this fucking podcast and still streaming, and now I just make dumb TikToks all the time and surviving, eating, trying to figure it out. Play some gigs here and there.
Yeah, we're literally talking about like the exact same. Like my entire situation was like this. The only thing that I added onto that is that like this space that I'm in is the basement of our house. Like we also built this space out so I could work, do all of these things as well. I was doing them. I was literally doing them in with exposed like concrete walls and stuff, and
Yeah.
just wasn't very like I had like a 7 foot tall green screen just so like it didn't look like I was at a squat talking to people. But yeah, I mean, for me, I always really loved the performance component. It was the connecting with people, and when you take that away, I was like, well, how can I connect to people in a different way? And the podcasts have been going on. Like we recorded episode 191 this afternoon.
Oh wow.
So we've been at it for a while, and again, it takes the stubbornness of just continuing to do something in the face of nobody consuming it. But yeah, this is like it's a totally different skill set, and staring into my phone or a camera and like reading back a bunch of stuff that I wrote down to like convey an educational point was not something that I was able to do 18 months ago, and now I do it once a week, and it's just crazy. I would hope I would get better at it. I don't feel like I'm better at regurgitating lines or not saying and because I listen to my podcast all the time. Because I am I don't know if I'm necessarily a narcissist, but I do care about the quality of the stuff that I put out. So I do listen and watch the stuff that I create just to make sure that it's palatable.
My girlfriend always gets on me. She's like, "Are you watching yourself again?" It's like I'm testing it for. It's like when you're a cook, you got to taste your own food to see if it tastes like shit or not. I don't really. I'm not a narcissist. I don't love myself. In fact, I'm in therapy because I have problems loving myself. So I'm going to dispel the idea that I'm. I mean, I think anyone who gets up on stage or is a performer has to have a small amount of like, "Hey, look at me." But it isn't because I think I'm great. It's just because I don't know why. I don't know. But the self-love thing. I mean, I think in order to be a narcissist, you have to really think you're the shit, and that's not me, bro.
Well, no, the performing complex is its own masochistic kind of like mindset. So, we have decided that the only way that people will accept us is through our skills and through our abilities. So we are willing to go in front of complete strangers, hundreds of them, thousands of them even, and just give them the thing in hopes that they'll love us back.
You want to know why?
Tell me.
Because I didn't get it from my daddy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing, dude. It actually, and before, when my dad passes, when I actually started therapy, I should have been doing it years, like decades before he passed.
Yeah.
But when my dad passed, I was like, oh, that's why I want everybody to like me, because he didn't when I was growing up. He would always tell me I'm not enough of this or I'm not that. You're not going to make enough money. He wanted me to play sports. He wanted me just to crush all the JJ. He wanted me to be like the epitome of macho, and I was a little artsy fat weirdo, and he did not like that. So yeah, I even at a young age, I was always like, look at me. I'm talented. Love me,
Yeah, my parents were great. They were supportive. They bought me guitars. They did the things that, good parents do. But I was abused as a child as well. And it just destroyed my sense of self-worth and value.
Yeah.
And that's why I do the things that I do. And the weird thing is that sometimes when you like start to feel better, you're like, I don't know if I need this as much as I used to. I don't know if that's like 100% the case, but I definitely have moments where I was like, meh, I could take the night off and still feel like a human being the next day.
That's what I've started doing recently, because I was always part of this kind of grind mindset in my brain. Like if I wasn't being productive, if I wasn't working on a project, if I wasn't doing something, lately I've been telling myself, Neil, it's okay to watch Sopranos. It's okay to play your Final Fantasy IV video game. You earned this. You work really hard, even though all of your grandiose dreams may have not come true. Even though your like fucking face isn't on a Wheaties box, you have touched the lives of some human beings, and you are appreciated by some humans. And regardless of all that, you have tried really hard. So you earned this 3-hour Final Fantasy IV session. Yeah.
There you go.
I earned it, man.
Hey, man, I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you.
Love it. We got to support each other. That's ultimately what we're here for. We're here to support each other. We're here to support other people. We have to be mean to other people in order to be supportive of the other people. That's the only thing.
Sort of makes sense, I think. I'm a little tired. My brain's working kind of slow.
Yeah, I hear you. I woke up at like 4 a.m. for no good reason, and worked all day.
Yeah.
But we're still here. We're here in the content mines, just shoveling it out for you people.
Yeah.
Late at night. That's what we're here for. It's what we do.
Yeah, we're
day in, day out.
The content mines. I like that. Shoveling it out, just feeding the masses. I like the way Bo Burnham opened up the Inside Special.
Daddy made you some content.
Yeah.
And what? Yeah.
When I was watching that, it was funny. My girlfriend looked over when he started to get visibly depressed and talk about suicidal ideation and whatnot. And what was really funny is I went through a similar kind of arc during the pandemic where at first I'm like, who needs live music? I'm just going to live on the internet. And then, as 9 months into it, my hair got really long. I gained a bunch of weight. I didn't care about anything. And so as he in the special, as she and I were watching it, as he's coming undone and he just looks terrible. My girlfriend looked at me and she's like, "Hey, it's you." And I'm just like, "God damn it." But but there were points in that special where I was just like, "Yeah, I identify with this so hard that I'm crying," Yeah, I tried to watch it with my wife, and we made it I don't know, 20, 30 minutes in, and she's like, "Turn this off." It was too real. It was too yeah. And so we put it down because it was too heavy. It's hard to process. My girlfriend has a way of in the face of really terrible shit being okay somehow. She has this mental wherewithal. She might be what you call she might not have mental problems. She might have but she has this really strong disposition in a way to just kind of plow through things and be okay with everything. And I just cry when I watch Pixar movies and stuff. So
they're engineered for that. Here's my Pixar story. So it's my favorite one to tell. So when you're a single person or a young person, you can watch those movies for what they are, is that they're entertainment. So I remember we rented or bought Finding Nemo as newlyweds. It was in my late 20s, and watching that movie this is a good movie. I like this. And then we had our first kid, and I was taking him to go get his haircut at some kids haircut place, and they've got movies playing on every single TV. Yeah. And I was waiting for him to get wrapped up, and the scene where the diver takes Nemo in the bag and his dad can't save him. I'd never seen that since becoming a parent. And I'm standing there in this pigtails and crew cuts, kids haircut thing, sobbing, quietly to myself so as to not draw attention from all the other people who were there, but unable to process the intensity of these emotions coming through this stupid movie while my kid, gets his haircut. So, and from here on out, I can't watch a Pixar movie without just sobbing uncontrollably. They're programmed. They do that. They're and here's the part where we make all the dads cry. Yeah. And here's every single one of them has it. They all have that moment. I'm fine.
Yeah. The first 6 minutes of Up is oh my God.
The last one that really wrecked me was Coco. There was this one scene where the little girl's hands were on the dad's face in a flashback, and I was just I was done. In our house on the couch with my entire family, all the dogs, the kids, and I'm just could not handle it. Could not. It just destroyed me. And they know how to do that now. They have the technology.
They have the formula down. And I remember watching this Sopranos. Okay, I'm working for my girlfriend earlier today and watching the Sopranos video about the masculinity that is involved with the mob characters and how they have to present themselves as being ultra masculine, and they fucking kill people, and no one can be openly gay in the crew, and it's like a cardinal sin, yada yada. I don't know if you've seen Sopranos at all. Like Vito is a gay man and ends up getting killed for it. It's just really intense. But and then talking about how Tony was so insecure about seeing a psychiatrist because it went against his view of the strong silent type and this masculinity. And I just like that here we are, two 40-year-old music guys talking about crying to Pixar movies. So hey man, cheers to that. Cheers.
It's living, it's the idea of living an unexamined life. Like I feel like the generation before us were like, yeah, I yell when I don't like things. That's just who I am. And they're just fine with that. And then the rest of us were like, well, you doing that hurt me as a child growing up. So I need to figure out why, like how to figure that part out. So I'm gonna have to look into that and figure out, how to navigate those things. It's funny to hear, about people tell stories about their parents that, that are our age, and they're just like fine with just being complete messes, or like having, very easily fixable like personality problems, but they're just like, meh. I made it past 50, and I'm just gonna be this way.
Yeah, and like my dad, some people just take that shit to the grave. Like it might be a little heavy, but I talk about this shit all the time. My sister on my father's deathbed, he told my sister that he was gonna change after he beat the cancer that killed him. And this is the thing. He had his whole life to rectify the abuse he put his children and his wife through, and all of the terrible things he said and did to us. He had his whole life to rectify that shit. And as he's going out is when he's like, I'm going to fix the family. It's just like, you say that now, and I wasn't there for this. It's arguable whether or not he even said it. My sister might have just fucking told us that to make us feel better.
Could be.
But who the fuck knows? But ultimately, it's like, if I die tomorrow, at least while I was here for the 40 years I was on this earth, I tried to fucking become a better person and like look at the shitty shit that I did and try to fix fucking some of it. Like I'm not perfect and I've fucked up in my life, but it's like, I want to be better now. I want to be, and I had an ex actually tell me when I started therapy, she's like, oh, like, you're giving this new person you're dating the best version of yourself. And it's like, yeah, well, you should be doing the same fucking thing. Like we should all be the best version of ourselves going into further endeavors, because otherwise, what, like, why? Like, we're just going to continue to suck? I don't know.
And sometimes it can be as simple as like just acknowledging those things. Like, I feel like we were accustomed to our parents not apologizing for stuff.
Not once.
Like, I apologize to my kids and my wife like all the time because I messed up constantly. I've got ADD and I forget stuff all the time, and I'm rarely the best version of myself. But at least I can say, hey, you didn't deserve that. Something was going on with me, and I shouldn't have taken that out on you. That's not fair. I'll try not to do that next time. Like, it doesn't sound like much, but like it's so much more than what an entire generation of kids got before us, It's crazy.
My dad never apologized once, not for fucking any of the vitriol or putting his hands on us or kicking down my sister. I could just list off the terrible things that he did, but not once. At least not to me.
Yeah.
He was always fucking right. And it's like, if you were so right, then he wasn't right. His whole, It's a thing. It's a thing. Yeah, and it's that generation. I guess what would you call them? The actual boomers. Like not just like boomer as a hurled insult on the internet, but the actual baby boomers. A lot of toxic masculinity and a lot of just being like, well, this is the way things are, and change. Fuck you. This is the way things are. This is how I was raised. So now I'm gonna kick the shit out of you, kid. Yay.
Well, it's like, and again, when you go into therapy, they go, well, does your family have a history of anxiety or depression? Yes. I was like, no, but my family has a history of alcoholism.
Yep.
And substance abuse, which is just, 1950s talk for anxiety and depression. Because they just didn't, that's just how that. Well, I feel feelings. Well, I'll just drink those away, and we'll just deal with that some other time. I mean, that is just how things were done back then. So it makes sense, if an entire like lineage of people were anxious people, that they would use whatever tools they had available to them, which back then was alcohol. It's just that we have better tools now. And so we don't need to rely on bad tools and try to find good tools.
We have yoga and SSRIs now.
Yeah. trying to stay up on my practice with both of those things, It's
you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, but again, you just got to be the best version of yourself that you can be in the moment. And if you aren't, just acknowledge it and I feel like the effort it takes to want to change and just be intentional about it, it doesn't take as much as I think we all say it does. It's just the relentlessness of it. You have to treat being a better person the way that you treat content creation. You have to keep trying things and failing and learning from those mistakes and continuing to move forward. That's the trick. That's how we get to be internet personalities and better people.
I like that. I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something here. Did you just make that up? Because I think you're onto something here. Yeah, you have to be as relentless with your self growth as you are with making fucking YouTube videos. Boom. Love it. TikToks or whatever. You have to just keep doing it. Yeah, I love that.
It doesn't fit on a t-shirt, but still pretty words to live by.
Yeah, you don't need to put on a fucking t-shirt. It's in my brain now. It's in my brain and it's in my heart.
Awesome.
I think on that note, we have been talking for an hour and 42.
That's a long one.
And I am going to turn into a pumpkin at 10 p.m., which is in 13 minutes.
Same.
Yeah. Here, 2 40-year-old white guitar guys talking about their feelings. I love it. I'm glad because...
And then going to bed.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I might play a little Final Fantasy. We'll see.
There you go.
But it's... Yeah, what was it? My brain is just farting. It's just nice. It's nice because all of this music industry talk can just remain music industry talk for however long. But I like when the podcast kind of opens up a little bit and we can start actually being human beings because it's like, okay, we've already gone over. This is the music industry. It's an industry. Fucking branding, DIY ethics, punk rock, TikTok, yada yada. But it's nice to actually get to know you a little bit and dig a little deeper and open up and Pixar movies. I mean, that's really what gets human beings going, especially like 40-year-old dudes. We could start talking about therapy and SSRIs and Pixar movies.
And child abuse, all the good stuff.
Woo!
Child abuse.
Yeah, I mean, but also... My girlfriend she's smart. She brought up a point. She's like, if you didn't have your shitty ass dad and if the things didn't go down in your life the way they went down, then you wouldn't be who you are. And then she'll say, and I love you. So.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. Although I am carrying things around like constant anxiety and worry, and I'm carrying around like some body dysmorphia thrown in there. And I have a complex where I think nothing I ever do is good enough and yada, yada, but also, my kind of fuck you attitude and I'm going to do what I want and I'm going to find a way to make it work just despite this guy is kind of what like started this journey. And the journey has brought me all over the world and I've met a lot of fucking amazing people and I'm surviving and I'm alive. I just need to find a way to have more consistent income streams. That's what I'm working on now. I'd be like, okay, because now the shows are fucking getting canceled left and right again.
Yeah.
So it's like, in the summer, I'm like, shows are back. Yeah, I can do the thing again. But it's like, dude, I'm going to LA in 2 days and I'm playing a New Year's show with Fishbone. Is it going to happen?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's almost like back to the Streamlab. It's back to fucking content creation. It's back to what worked when that one thing was taken away. And it's nice to know that I was able to make it work when shows were taken away because I feel like it's going to happen again. I mean, I went on Instagram today. I'm friends with a lot of people that play shows. Cancel.
Yeah.
Like, boom. Like, COVID's back. Omicron, the what's it called? The transmissibility or it's just super transmissible. I guess
way more contagious.
Yeah, I guess the symptoms aren't as heavy as the Delta variant, but the fact that, like, in New York City, 18,000 new cases today. You know, everything's getting fucking canceled.
Yeah, I was there 2 weeks ago, and like right as things were about to start popping off again, and you know, I'm not an epidemiologist, but like typically when they talk about like virality and stuff, is that they tend to, as they mutate, become more transmissible but less severe because it helps like propagate the existence of the virus. Yeah. Like it wants to survive longer, so it will like We'll make it easier to catch and less likely to kill you so that, you know, we can continue to be viruses in people because that's what we want to be.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's 100% true. And if you're, you know, if I'm wrong, you can email Neil and tell him all about it.
Yeah, be like, that guy didn't know what he's talking about punk rock nor epidemiology.
I don't have a degree in either of those things.
Cover bands are not real viruses.
They're not. And but I'll say this because we do need to wrap up. You were talking about negative self-talk and not thinking things are good enough. My buddy Matt says this all the time, and I just love it. He say, "Hey man, don't sell yourself short. That's our job."
Love it.
Just that's what the internet's telling you that every single day. Hey man, don't sell yourself short. That's our job.
Yeah, that's words. Once again, words to live by. All right, while we got you here, Adam Johnson, plug your shit.
All right, so I've got a podcast called Cover Band Confidential. You can find all of that stuff at coverbandconfidential.com. You can find me on all major social media networks under Adam Patrick Johnson. If you want to know more about all the other crap that I'm doing, writing, designing, coaching, all of that stuff, adampatrickjohnson.com. You can find me on the TikToks. That's typically where I'm at. Everything else is dead. Long live TikTok. And that's pretty much it, man.
Facebook is dead, bro.
I mean, I'm there, but I'm not there, you know?
Same. I remember when someone posted gay porn on our MySpace page in like 2007 when it was really popping off.
Oh, yeah.
And then our page got taken down and it was like the end of the world to me when our MySpace page got taken down for like a few days. It was someone else put a GIF of some gay porn on our comment section, and they just are like wiped us. And I just remember being like, "Oh, we've been spamming people for 2 years to get these 33,000 plays." You know,
my band CNN did a story on my band about MySpace, and there was a part of it that was supposed to be about meeting a girl that I was dating on MySpace, but then we broke up while they were shooting the story. And so they couldn't use that part. I would have had way more prominent presence in that article if I hadn't screwed up and broke it with my girlfriend. So
you should have just told her, "Hey, we got to stay together until this article comes out."
Good times.
Great times. Yeah. 2007 was a time. All right. Well, Adam Patrick Johnson, thank you for being on the SUPcast. This is episode 70. I know you wanted to be on episode 69, but it didn't really work out. Yeah.
Hey, man, you got to talk to a Satanist, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I learned a lot. And yeah. But it's funny because actually I got out of that interview and my girlfriend's like, "But if it's something about like they believe in Satan, they worship Satan." I'm like, "No, he's non-theistic." And I had to explain.
Yeah.
And then her response was, sounds pretty fucking nerdy to me.
She's not wrong.
But also, yeah, she's funny. She has a funny sense of humor, kind of a snarky sense of humor. But dude, all right, thank you for being on here. Let's cut it, and I will see you on the TikToks, and I will be commenting and following your content. Everyone should follow Adam Patrick Johnson on the TikToks.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you. And if you want to end the conversation, we'll end it. And I'm gonna cut this up and edit it and make it tight. It's gonna be tight.
Very cool. All right, man.
All right, have a great night. Thanks, dude.
All right, see you. Bye.
Better. So there you go. 40-year-old white dudes that play guitar talking about music and their feelings. Everyone have a beautiful day, evening, or whenever you listen to this. And I appreciate anyone who listens to this, because hopefully you can derive from these little episodes some of the stuff that I derive. And when I listen back is when it all really sinks in. And I think Adam had a lot of good points. And it's been real. SUPcast number 70. Love you, love you. We'll catch you on the flip. Peace. Oh, yeah. New Year's Eve. Downtown Brown and Fishbone. And Shocky the Funk Wizard in L.A. Is it going to happen? Only time will tell. Sup and later. Hey, do you like this video? Do you want to see more stuff like it? Well, consider being a patron of my Patreon page, patreon.com/Neil P. If you pledge monthly, you get some perks, you get some exclusive content, and you get to help stuff like this get made on the monthly. Yo, check it out.